Fijn dat je er bent. Menno? Nico Rijkhoff from Ziggo. Menno de Boer. Good to see you again.
Good to see you.
It's been quite a while.
Hey, who's this good?
But let's just continue where we were,
yes.
Armin. Brands connecting with dance music. What's different from let's say the situation 10 years ago?
Well, it's just because the scale. There's a lot more bigger events. There's a lot more money going around in the world. Promoters need money to organize events.
Yeah.
DJs need money to make better shows. A lot of the money that I make for shows actually goes back into the shows. Sometimes people see. There was recently a list published in Forbes that we couldn't react to as DJs. I would like to say something about that now because somebody said I made 17 million in a year. I don't know where that money is. If somebody knows where that is, please tell me.
It's actually way more, isn't it?
I have no idea what that is, and I think Afrojack said the same. Because what we do, we invest a lot of money back into the show.
Yeah.
And so you need brands. You need brands also for making the events themselves better. And we depend on brands because governments won't do that. So that's a really, that's a big difference to answer your question.
Yeah.
That's the big difference with 10 years ago.
With the high budgets involved, you're able to do, well, way larger performances. On the other hand, I can also imagine that you have to, well, maybe restrict yourself slightly creatively in order to really reach such a mass audience.
That's a good point. I mean, I already said with Hans-Erik in the introduction, I've been approached by many brands, and I made a conscious decision to work with Heineken on this campaign. Because I believe in the own responsibility of people. That's my personal belief. So it's not a decision of my management. It's something that, because in the end of the day, as an artist, you're always responsible for your own decisions, for your own career. Yeah. Artists complaining like, I'm not successful, in the end of the day, it's always your own fault. And I believe in people's own responsibility. That's my personal belief. Yeah. And I think we have to give that back. Governments just forbidding events, that won't work because that means that it will go underground, it will be illegal. And if we do it in a legal way, but we say, okay, we point to the people in the room and say, you have your own responsibility. If you see somebody on a dance floor being completely wasted, drunk, and he needs medical attention, please go to the people around them, go to the security and tell, hey, here's something is happening, And this is something that I wanted to put forward with the Heineken campaign as well. Is you point people towards their own responsibility. You promote that moderation is actually cool. Yeah. It's not cool to be wasted on a party. It's simply not.
That's clear. The Heineken connection is also very, very clear. Thank you very much for that. But if you look at all those editions of Marketing Tribune, Dutch magazine, there's your picture on the front page because you're now also appearing on a stamp. NL Post is really embracing dance as well, not just you, or for other colleagues as well. What's it like to have your own stamp?
That's great that they can finally lick me.
And you bought all of them so you can use them for the remainder of your life, so you can just, all your mail will go by with this stamp, of course.
Yeah. No, I think what I'm most proud of about the stamps, because I actually thought of this when I got the official stamp at the start of the ADE on Wednesday. And I was standing there with Afrojack and with Hardwell, and I was like, we're representing our country now. We are the faces of our country, like Johan Cruyff used to be, and still is, and the Dutch team. The DJs represent the Netherlands now. It's like almost like being on a coin. A stamp is like something that's only for Royal Highnesses and all that. So well, you are already an officer in the Order of Orange, aren't you? Yeah, so you're well informed.
So I'll make my homework. Thank you. Menno, you're the program director of Radio 538, this country's largest commercial radio station. We're talking about millennials and marketing here today as well. What has changed with the huge popularity of EDM for Radio 538's music policy?
Well, does it work? Let's switch. This one's better. Dance is really in Radio 538's DNA since the start of the station, like in 1993. So the continuous evaluation of EDM, well, it doesn't really change Radio 538, but since it became so much more popular internationally, all eyes are more on what's happening in the Netherlands at the moment. But as for a radio station, it's really important to know your audience in the country you work for. And we in the Netherlands love dance. all the way, not only in the weekends, but also at night, in the morning. Yeah. So we just need to keep our eyes really, really open because there's so much talent, there's so much music.
Has the average age of people listening to Radio 538 decreased because of the popularity of EDM, or is it still the same?
It's still, on average, it's 36 years, the listener of Radio 538. Yeah. It doesn't change a bit. But for example, my father, who's now 67, likes the new Calvin Harris single with John Newman.
Of course he does.
Really much.
Of course he does. I'm 55. Like it as well. Jacqueline.
That's good to hear.
Jacqueline. Radio 5, by the way, very glad to have you here. You're the only female CEO of any Dutch radio station, actually in radio and TV in this country. Yes, you may applaud for that. Does Radio 538 profit from the huge popularity of dance, commercially?
Yes, well, one of the good things is that, and Armin already mentioned that, is that it's Dutch, right? So it's coming from the Netherlands. And we are the stations representing it and also making sure that it gets a good platform, not only in our events, but on the station, online. Make sure that we keep it that way and that the Dutch scene of dance is supported also by stations like us.
Radio 538 is a great radio station, but also not just because of its programming. Yeah. Well, I used to be chairman of the supervisory board, so I'm slightly subjective there. But also because I know you're spending a lot of money and a lot of time and effort in marketing. Yep. How do you address the millennials in your marketing campaigns?
Well, one of the things is that you need to have a campaign that fits your DNA. If you're trying to be something that you're not, it's not going to work. Right. So. We need to have a match with what we has as, if you call it brand essence, of something that you want to communicate. So what we did is, you saw the campaigns probably. We had outdoor massively and television. And we're investing in it, I think, since 8 months now. And what we see is because it has, it's outspoken, I guess. So what we are doing is be outspoken, and that in itself, because it fits our DNA, works. So our average listening time 1319 and 2034 has increased since we have the campaign.
Right, because that's one of the things we heard this morning as well. Authenticity is extremely important for this demographic group. Huh?
Yeah, but it's also the most misused word I have heard in advertising since the last 2 years. I mean, the authenticity is, if you talk about it too much, it kind of becomes less authentic, right? Yeah. You should be, and that is something you should just do, be it, live it, and then if people pick that up and see that it's a natural fit, then it works.
And then you still stay cool for this demographic group.
Well, I don't think we need to be cool, actually. Because we just need to be the station that plays the music that they want to listen to.
I always have the impression that 538 on a Saturday night is doing its utmost to be as cool and young as possible.
Now we play well, I think we play the music they want to listen to, and if this is the music they want to hear, we play it. It's not us. It's not about us.
Nico, you're responsible for the marketing of Ziggo, which will very soon be the only, almost the only cable operator in this country. Cable is something we all need and use, but it's a utility. How do you keep such a brand cool?
Well, first of all, meet your customer. And that's not always an easy thing, especially not for millennials, as we talk about. But one of the first things that we actually decided when we decided to start Ziggo about 5-6 years ago now is to make it a brand that people actually can meet. So we actually went to customers, or with the Ziggo Dome created a venue where we can actually meet customers when they're face to face with their favorite artists.
Yeah.
So that's a way to.
And now Ziggo is connecting with dance as well?
Well, the funny thing was, in the preparation of this event, I was thinking by myself, we actually haven't done that much yet with dance.
It's about time.
Well, talk about the future of brands and dance. It could be Ziggo. Now, one of the key insights that we had in the past year was that we actually, being a household brand, didn't really connect to young people at all. We didn't reach them. We couldn't find any way to interact with them. We were very good with their parents, which of course is rather a good thing. But when it comes down to the future, you need, of course, more than just the parents who are getting older. But you need a proposition, you need some good advertising campaign or activation. And the first step we took was actually to put it on the map, and we decided to do it with a broad range of popular music, being the EMA's in Amsterdam. And we've done some activity with Heineken in the last year, but there's plenty of more to explore.
Yeah.
Actually, we had a nice talk already.
Well, good. So you're going to do some business today as well?
I don't know. Could be.
Armin, you're not just one of the world's best DJs. You're also a very strong brand. How has the brand Armin van Buuren developed over the years?
Well, I have a great team of people around me. I mean, you look at me right now, and of course I'm the face, but it's also a brand now, which sometimes feels funny, because it's the name that my parents give me, but it just grew. I think it grew on several stages. First of all, through my music, of course, through my radio show, which is now a separate brand as well. And yeah, it's something that reaches the millennials, I guess. Also social media, of course.
Yeah.
It's very important. I think social media is the key word for any millennial right now.
Do you listen to the feedback that you get from social media?
You have to, which is sometimes really hard. That's one of the things of millennials, is they, because Facebook and Twitter and all the other social media you can be anonymous.
Yeah.
And you don't look somebody in the face like I'm looking you in the face right now. So you can be pretty harsh.
Yeah.
That's also a thing of the millennials. They're pretty direct, and so you have to be pretty direct back. One of the things I learned making radio, and Menno knows this as well, the listener knows exactly when you're lying or not. So you have to be honest with the millennials and tell them straight up what you're about, because there's no fooling them.
Yeah. Menno, being honest and being in contact with your audience, do you use social media for that as well? Do you
not at
share
all.
that experience?
Not at all.
No? You only do ratings?
No, I was joking. The funny thing is, radio is so much more fun because of all the impossible and possible ways you have to interact with people. Just like Armin said, there's feedback everywhere. There's feedback via telephone, via SMS, via Twitter, via Instagram, via Facebook. And if you're a good broadcaster, you use it all the time.
Yeah.
But like Armin says, you have to be really careful because people are really, really straightforward. Well, when I used to work at Slam FM with Armin, and he's one of the first DJ shows who really incorporated the feedback from listeners into his show. And it improved his show because it gives listeners the feeling that there's a bond. They have a bond with A State of Trance, the brand of Armin van Buuren. And that's what we do at Radio 538. We continuously, at every time of the day, seek interaction with our listeners. When somebody is shown around in the studio, I always ask them, what do you think of Radio 538? What do you enjoy, what not? Yeah. And that's really, really sometimes...
It's like Steve Jobs walking into an Apple store, just watching how people buy his products. Jacqueline, it's interesting, Menno is still using the word Radio 538, but nowadays it's 538, isn't it? Because 538 is much more than a radio station.
Yeah, well, actually we brought it back again.
Yeah?
Yes.
Did you? How come? The radio is a bit of an old-fashioned word.
I just decided to do it. Because I think, we are radio. And radio, whether you stream it or whether you have it, via your car radio, it doesn't really matter. The DNA of our company is radio. It is for Slam and it is for 538. So just to leave it out for whatever reason, I think because we want it to be multimedia.
Is radio still a word that fits with the millennials of this world? Do they still like it?
Yeah, because if you look at the listening time, on average they listen 2 hours, 46 minutes. Yeah. I learned that by heart. And then it is, I think for 70%, so 70%, they listen also in the younger age brackets. They listen through their car radio or a fixed radio set. So it is still there. And if you look at iPods or if a phone or whatever,
Spotify, YouTube,
it's in time. It's 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 8 minutes. Doesn't mean that you don't need to be ready for it. You need to be ready for it. So we are ready for that. Yeah. But they still listen in a traditional way.
Yeah. I mean, how important is your radio show for your brand?
I've started to use it as the center of everything I do.
Yeah.
So whether it's news about me being a father for the second time, or anything I discover on tour, or the fact that I can say radio again, on 538. I use it.
That you're
I tell
allowed
my
to
listener.
say it again.
I tell my listener, because the listener, I want to be honest with my listener. So everything comes together in my radio show. The music that's from me, from my label, I produce, but also the music from my competition. I use it in my radio show. So everything that I do, like for example, the track that I did with Heineken, I premiered it in my radio show, made it a big moment. So it's like, if you want to know how Armin van Buuren is doing, what's up with him personally, what music he listens to, just go listen to A State of Trance and I'll tell you everything. So it's my direct line with the listener. There's no room for misinterpretation. Yeah.
But the feedback in social media is obviously way higher, the direct response. If you would have to make a choice between A State of Trance radio and your social media exposure, what would you pick?
It's really hard to choose. I would say I'm a radio guy. Radio is in my DNA as well, because I grew up listening to radio. I mean, 538 was one of the reasons why I actually became a DJ, because I heard the music that I liked so much through 538. I gotta say though, one of the things of the DNA of the millennials is that the attention span is really short.
Right.
What you see now in festivals, what is the difference with DJing 10 years ago, is that I play a track and then you have the big drop. And people go crazy, and after the drop, everybody stares at their phones like this.
And wait for the next drop has to be very quick.
And then there's a new breakdown, and people go like this. And then the drop comes, and they go this. And then they send it to Facebook. That's what the millennials do. That's the difference between 10 years ago. Everybody has smartphones, but they forget that it's not the phone that's smart, it's the people using it.
Yeah. Well, if you would ask them to just put down the phone for a full night, and just to concentrate on the music and enjoy slow drinking and no phones, would it help?
It would be a good idea, a good experiment.
Give it a try, and let us know next year when you come back here. Your colleagues, many of your colleagues have radio shows nowadays as well. Is it a marketing a channel that no big name in EDM can afford to miss at the moment?
When I started, I mean, I was one of the first, I'm proud to say, but when I started it, there was no big plan behind it. I mean, I just love radio so much, and I got a really small opportunity from Robin Albers, who was the station director at IDT Radio, later Slam FM, and he said, I want you to do a weekly radio show. I said, I can't do a radio show, but he gave me the opportunity, and I took it with both hands. And I remember all my colleagues, all the big DJ names from the Netherlands telling me, are you crazy doing a 2-hour radio show every week and telling all your track titles? Are you crazy? Those same guys have radio shows right now. Yeah. So it just proves that it just works, because through radio, I think I still like radio more than TV. You know why? With TV, you always have to go through somebody's front door. If there's a camera in front of your door, you go, ooh, no, and you close the door, you know? But with radio, you can just call somebody.
It's great.
And you're inside their house. So I love radio as a direct way of communicating.
And when you're busy, when you're traveling, do you still do the show as a full 2-hour program, or do you voice track your individual segments?
No, I do the radio show on my hotel room, sometimes in my underwear. It's really handy if room service comes.
Nobody sees you.
Comes by, but that's I'll tell you that another time.
Jacqueline,
it's a funny story.
When you see that Armin is connecting so well with Heineken, do you, as a radio station, try to profit from that as well by doing special campaigns together with Armin, together with Heineken, things like that?
Yeah, but I mean it's a possibility. So you can interact if you have the same brand values, and I guess we have. I mean it's a good thing. But also in other areas like sports, or we do with World Championships, we also work together with brands. We do a lot of things together with, like for example in the Ziggo Dome, with the music and the brands that are there already as partners of the Ziggo and the Ziggo Dome. So yeah.
So where we first saw a convergence of all kinds of media, social media, radio, TV becoming, let's say, one brand, now you see individual elements, brands, DJs, radio stations converging as well.
Yeah, I think that if you do that, you're responsible for an experience. Right. Instead of for just being intrusive and being somewhere with a brand with a big logo. So it adds relevance actually to do that. Yeah.
Menno, radio in the last decades has become a real art. Lots of research, DJs not allowed to pick their own records anymore. I assume that doesn't apply to Armin in his show. Lucky him, it doesn't apply
really
to
lucky.
Edwin Evers. But I mean, on one hand, you have to be extremely commercial with all your research. On the other hand, you have to be and try to be cool and authentic. How do you manage that?
Well, to start with the first thing you mentioned, that a lot of DJs are not allowed to pick their own records. Everybody has their expertise. And not every DJ is well musically minded enough and wise enough to pick their own records. And with Radio 538, we have a really thought through format. We always play the hits, so we want to do it very carefully.
Yeah.
Adjusted at the time of broadcasting. When you listen to Edwin Evers in the morning, it's the Radio 538 sound, but with the right energy, with the right records, with the right new music. When you listen to, like you said, Saturday night, a lot of people are in the party mood, and then we have dance department with some other records. And during weekend days, it's different than weekdays. So we got a really good team on music who picks the records.
Yeah.
And you really need to, it's not connected commercially. It's like religion and politics. Mm-hmm. You don't want it to intervene. You really have to know your end listener. That's who you love, that's who you work for. You want to let them appreciate the product every single day, every second. So there's a lot of energy and effort going into that strategy.
Yeah. Jacqueline, can you elaborate a little bit about your Beat of the Moment campaign? How did it come about? How did you create it?
Well, one of the things you do is that the radio landscape has a few strong players. So there are different stations that address an audience with a proposition. And in my opinion, ours became less clear. So what we did is we did a look at our brand essence and just to see who we are. And then what we saw is actually what we do is we bring the music of today to a lot of people. And that says something about our ability to feel what the time is like. And what everybody is doing outside in the moment. So what we said is that, okay, so we are the station of the moment. Like Edwin on Monday morning has a different sound than Ruud de Wild in Thursday afternoon. Because he plays different songs, he's more catchy. And Edwin, well, you know, picks up the day with you. So what did the football team do? They are more easygoing. So the Beat of the Moment is about that. It's about tuning in to the moment of the listener in that certain period of time or during the day.
Yeah. Nico, Bob Dylan many decades ago sang, the times they are changing. What has been changing in the marketing environment that you were involved with in the last 10 years?
Well, I think the biggest change that we came across is that first of all, we stopped just putting a logo on something. Brands and companies actually need to add value to the lives of people. Yeah. And in collaboration with other partners, could be media, could be other brands, you have to start finding what is that property that actually would add value to that one customer or this group of customers in order to grow the business of your partners, yourself, and the lives of the ones you address. I think that is maybe the biggest change that we actually came to see across in the past few years.
And that's why you made such a deliberate choice for music at Ziggo.
Exactly, yeah. And it's not to say that it's the only choice, because there could be many more, but for now it's a very important one. And when you look in the future, I can imagine that we can actually choose some other more properties that actually could fit with the brand. But then you would start looking for cross links between those two, like music and, let's say, something else. Yeah. And what's happening there is actually is making a connection with people, from young to slightly older.
We had Frank van der Walbaken this morning on stage, and he made a comparison between sports and music, and he basically pointed out that sports commercially is still way larger marketing-wise than music, and definitely than EDM. Do you think that is going to change?
I think there's a very important difference between sports and music. And for us, it's been a very deliberate choice to actually go for music rather than for just sports. When you hear a song or a tune, it actually starts to become meaningful the moment you can talk with someone about it. And you can reproduce it digitally. So it's shareable. The meaning is shareable. When it comes down to sports, you're actually there, or you see it somewhere, but it's just there. It's at that one moment. Mm-hmm. And music can actually continue over time and time and time again in a multitude of meanings and variations. Yeah. Over hundreds of years.
But if you look at a company like Heineken, teaming up with the Champions League and now MSL Soccer in the US, I mean, they create continuity as a result as well.
Yeah, true. Our choice is music. And the one thing about music is that it's one of those things that the moment you hear it, all your senses become aware again of that one moment that you actually heard it for the first time, or the special memory you have. So it's emotionally very close. It's not just the heart, it's actually the belly that is hit the button.
Well, hooray. Big applause for the man. Okay, close to the heart. Armin, A State of Trance is going to become a festival as well. I assume Heineken will be one of the sponsors.
I hope so.
But, are you personally involved in talking to other sponsors as well?
No. I'll tell you why. I mean, I made a conscious decision to be a musician. I was once a director of Armada as well. I'm not anymore. I'm just a shareholder. Because my passion is with music. I want to be with my feet in the mud. I want to see the crowd reacting to the tunes. I want to be making radio shows. And that's a conscious decision. Of course, if it comes to such an important decision as who's going to be my brand, then of course I'm involved. I mean, but then they already talked to my management and everything. But that's just a conscious decision. And again, you look at me right now, but behind me there's a great team, including these people sitting here that help me and that support me. It's a joint effort. I want to stress that.
How many sponsors do you need for a festival like that? How commercial can you be?
Well,
exposure-wise,
the millennials expect more and more, bigger and bigger and better. And in the Netherlands, we know what we do with dance events. I'm proud to say that it has nothing to do with me, but just a big compliment to all the DJs, and especially companies like ID&T, who really set the bar really high for dance events around the world. But you also need finances. And of course, it went a little bit through my mind, okay, I'm going to work with a big brand like Heineken. People will probably say, maybe it's commercial or whatever. But on the other hand, I was thinking, if I can make my product better by working with a brand like that, and even add the message of the brand, then it's a win-win situation. I wouldn't see why that would be a bad thing. And in my show, in the Intense show that I actually do in the Ziggo Dome in December, we have a Heineken moment. And I so far haven't seen any negative reaction about it. Nobody has said to me, oh, it's a commercial move. Because dance music for a long time was really stuck. You know, you cannot be commercial. You have to be very careful.
But I think cheesy.
But I think the millennials now accept the fact that it's growing. Everything is growing. The music industry, if you know, the only constant is change. You know, it's the most used proverb. That goes for the music industry as well. It will keep developing. It will keep changing. Some people don't like it. Some will. I think we have to embrace the fact that we need brands like Heineken to grow, because we need the funds. We just need to, you know, the millennials expect more. To
put on bigger shows, but probably also to professionalize dance music even further. Do you think there's still a long way to go there, professionalizing the industry?
Absolutely. I think it's really important to understand right now we're at a very important point in time. America has just embraced dance music. I think we will one day look back at this time as the beginning of everything. I mean, dance music will diversify, and it will, you know, more festivals will come, more artists, more music, which is a great thing.
Well, has America embraced dance music, or have they embraced EDM?
The most popular sound now is EDM, and the focus is on EDM. But a lot of people complain about that, and I always look at it this way. Because the main stage is full, and all the headliners play the main stage, it also means there's more room for smaller areas and for new talent to flourish. So I only see the good sides of it. If you don't like that EDM sound, if you don't like the main stage's sound, if you like techno, for example, there's room for a techno area now with techno guys, because the main stage guys are pulling the people in. And you know, at one point, the millennials, especially the young ones, they'll be like, okay, I've seen the main stage, now I'll go see a techno. You know, my taste of music has changed over the years as well. This will happen with millennials as well.
And does the fact that an organization like SFX buys a festival like Awakenings help to commercialize that part of the industry as well?
I think, I mean, it's something that is unstoppable anyway. It will happen. Whether you and I will like it or not, this thing will grow bigger, and it's already happening. So we can better face it and you know, position yourself. Complaining about the fact that this is growing is not going to help any of us. I think we should just look at the positive sides of it, and everybody, you know, choose your battles and try to see where you fit in the picture.
And enjoy it. Nico, your forecast for the next 5 years, where will we be with this industry 5 years from now?
I think the key will be that there will be a group of companies, brands, who actually have been in discussion and dialogue with the industry on the needs of the industry to further professionalize and develop, and actually come up with a solution that will work for the better of all of them involved. Because I think that is the key for the next 5 years, involvement. When you look at this group that we're talking about, millennials, to me the key word is involvement. They're critical, actually they embrace commerce, so there's nothing wrong with being commercial, but it has to be real, and it has to actually profit everyone involved. And I think that's going to be the key. And what the outcome will be, I don't know, because if we knew, it was already there. So it's something to be found. It could be here, it could be just in one-on-ones, it could be in a broader sense by groups like 538, who puts people together. Yeah.
Jacqueline, what role will indeed a company like Radio 538 play in the next 5 years, building on that?
Well, to come back to your forecast point, I think there's only one thing that kind of is a big threat to this industry, and that is the business model behind it. Because if advertisers turn the other way, and if the online platforms do not have the capability to be as commercial as traditional media companies are, or event companies are, then we don't have the money to support big events and to make sure that these kind of experiences, like we bring them, or ID&T brings them, or you know, every one of us in the industry, they're not going to happen anymore, because you need, and that's why, building on your point, I think we should embrace the commercial side of it, and don't be too scared. If it fits, if it's okay, don't worry. And the other thing is that if you look at the US and the way they approach it, it's about creative capitalism. Mm-hmm. You can only have creativity when you also have the money to support it. And I think that is a big thing that we should embrace and look for good, healthy business models to make sure that we listen to great music and have great events.
But that creative capitalism, do you think that there's still a chance that major brands will turn away from dance because of, for instance, one or another scandal or tragic event happening at one or another festival? Or is the industry now at such a level that that's hardly thinkable anymore?
You know, I've been in this industry for a year now, and I've been to a couple of festivals, and you know, one thing stands out is that everybody takes the responsibility to make sure that everybody is safe, and that we have everything in place on crowd management, on safety, on first aid, you know, everything is in place. So I think that is, on that side, we're fine. Everybody knows that you are responsible to make sure that is done in a good way and in a safe way. The other thing is that I don't know an industry. I couldn't even mention a bar or a restaurant where at a certain point in time maybe something could happen that is trashy, right? Yeah. That is not exclusive to dance or dance parties. That is everywhere.
Just look at the sports world. We mentioned that this morning. Okay, Armin, we already basically heard your vision, but do you want to add something to that? The future of the dance industry in the next 5 years?
I always compare it to what happened to the Beatles. Because I find it interesting to look
they broke up.
They broke up, but if you listen to the first Beatles album and the last Beatles album, what you hear is a progress in production technique, songwriting skills of Lennon and McCartney, of course. But also they were influenced by the music that they were listening to. I mean, they used a Moog synthesizer on Sgt. Pepper. A Moog synthesizer, which at that time was completely unthinkable. And so my point is, right now you have, for example, dubstep is really popular. It has elements of trip-hop, jungle, two-step, rock, anything. So my guess is in 5 years from now, Back in the beginning, in the early days of house music, you had only one big event, like Dance Valley, and you had all styles there. Right now, you have a festival like Awakening, which is only about techno. You have a State of Trance, which is about trance. Yeah. So every genre will get its own festival. So what you will say, to answer your question, is you have diversification. So every genre will get its own following, its own. So it's no longer just one thing anymore. It's just spreading out through all kinds of music.
And every genre will change in itself as well, I guess, in the coming years.
Music
EDM today is different from EDM 5 years from now.
I know for us human beings, it's really complicated sometimes if we can't put labels on things.
Right.
But with music, it's a fact. It's a fact. You know, if you buy a jar of peanut butter, and it says peanut butter, you'll be really upset if there's jam in your peanut butter jar. You know what I mean? But
I know what you mean.
It is what's happening with music. I mean, music is constantly changing, and on some music you can simply not put a label because the label hasn't been invented yet.
Yeah. Menno, radio's changing as well continuously. Where will radio be 5 years from now? With all the additional competition from Spotify, iTunes,
I think radio,
lots of music services.
I think radio is an amazing guide for people. An amazing guide to let them explore new kinds of music, new kinds of genres, like we were just talking about. I think genres will even mix more. It's really thinkable that Armin van Buuren, for example, will produce a track with Macklemore, or maybe even Gavin DeGraw, or something like that. So radio, it's challenging, of course, because there are so many devices and so many different ways of getting the media you love and like. But if we keep on interacting with our listeners, our fans, if we are creative and explore new possibilities of being the guide in music, radio will always be there, because people love that.
Thank you very much. I sincerely hope that Radio 538 will still be the #1 radio station 5 years from now. You will once again, of course, be the #1 DJ in the world by then. Jacqueline, I still hope you're still managing the largest radio station in the country by then. And Ziggo, of course, is the only cable company in this country, so you'll be #1 anyway, Nico. Thank you very much, and we'll see each other soon. Dank je. Jacqueline, Nico.